This is TV Podcast Industries, and we're watching The Witcher episodes 5 to 8. Welcome back, fellow Witchers, to TV Podcast Industries, where we are doing our part 2 coverage of The Witcher, and we will be looking at episodes 5 to 8. I am one of your hosts, John.
I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
And rounding out this fellow group of bards, I am Chris.
Can we be anything other than bards? There's loads of different things in this universe. Can we be witchers? Can we be mages, maybe?
To be fair, we use our voices a lot.
We do.
True.
We are bards. We may not like it, but we are bards.
Yes, O Valley of Plenty.
What is the podcaster equivalent in this universe? I would assume
A bard.
storytellers.
A bard.
Damn it.
A bard or a storyteller, yes, a wise woman.
A Shanachie would be the Irish word for it. So
Yes, a wise
I'm
woman.
sticking with bard. It sounds better.
Okay, Bard. But welcome, fellow witches. Yes, our spoiler-filled review of episodes 5 to 8, our part 2, if you will, of the Witcher series. And we are TV Podcast Industries. If you haven't already, please pop over to our website and you can subscribe on any Nilfgaardian or Sintran supporting podcast player. And of course, support us by rating us, sharing the podcast, leaving a review on your podcast catcher of choice, because sharing the podcast is absolutely sharing the love. And of course, if you want to, you can also head on over to our Patreon and you can support us there as well. Any form of support for TV Podcast Industries is spot on. So yes, you can get us on Patreon at patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries. And of course, any support, whatever form it takes, is absolutely spot on, fellow witchers. And I presume soon to be fellow Trekkies or Trekkers. So if you haven't already, you can check out our preview podcast for the upcoming Star Trek Picard, which releases on the 23rd of January in the US and the day after on Amazon Prime for all other territories. So for Europe, then yes, Friday the 24th, it will be beaming down, dare I say it, into Amazon Prime for your eyes to engulf its glorious science fiction.
I'm so excited for you guys to see it. I was lucky enough to get to see it at the premiere in London, and it was really good. I think you guys are going to enjoy it.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm kind of going in blind on this one, and I think I'm going to stay that way.
Like Geordie LaForge, indeed.
Almost, yes. Oh my God. I remember when they had TNG back in the day, and it was on Sky One, which was basically a UK channel that was shown in Ireland, and it was on every day after school. But there was one episode that stuck with me where it was, did LaForge get his eyes back at one point?
In the movies, he got them back.
Yes.
Yeah.
But wasn't there an episode where like he got his eyes back and they showed him color, and then he saw things that no one else could see and turned out to be an alien? And
Yes, that definitely happened. Yeah.
Okay.
But he did complain for the 7 seasons of the show because he basically wore a headband painted gold as the thing in front of his eyes for the 7 seasons, and he complained that it was very difficult for him to see. So they did correct that eventually in the films.
Yes, or do any form of action, of course. So remember, fellow witches, if you are also into your sci-fi as much as your fantasy, head on over to TV Podcast Industries, where you can check out our preview and premiere podcasts about all things to do with Star Trek Picard.
And if you are supporting us on Patreon, you'll obviously know this, but if you're not, we do put this episode out in advance over on Patreon, first for anybody who supports us on any level over on Patreon. We did that last week with the first part, and it seems to have gone down really well. Everybody seems to have enjoyed our first discussion on The Witcher. We went a little bit long on that one. We went almost 2.5 hours, but that's because it's a brand new world with new characters to talk about. I think we're going to go a little bit shorter on the second half of the series.
Maybe.
Or will we?
Or will we, indeed?
Well, I think
Never say never, Derek.
that's true.
We're already about 17 minutes in and we haven't even started yet. But Just as a quick recap, we are going to discuss episodes 5 to 8 of The Witcher up to the finale with our big moment of each of the episodes as we go through it. So, to kick off on this podcast of plenty, let us get into episode 5, Bottled Appetites.
Yeah, this episode was directed by Charlotte Brändström, who also directed episode 6 and previously directed episodes of Arrow and Man in the High Castle, along with loads of other stuff.
Ooh.
So, a great working director, definitely.
Yes, Man in the High Castle. I still need to finish that, actually, but really, really enjoyed it. And Arrow, well, that's finished now.
It is, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, that's all I can say on that one.
Oliver McQueen, or as I keep calling him, Steve McQueen, was kind of almost like a semi-god or something, a deity in the crossover.
Look at you spoiling stuff.
Well, that's true, yes. Spoilers, fellow witches, for all things CW.
I actually love, even though you call him Steve McQueen, I still love that you'll also Irish up Oliver and call him Oliver McQueen as well. It's just Oliver Queen, John. But regardless of Arrow, this episode was written by Sneha Koorse. She was a story editor on Constantine and Daredevil before writing an episode of Daredevil Season 2 and 2 episodes of The Umbrella Academy.
Yep. I like her work. I know her work. It's good work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, and that's obviously where Lauren Schmidt, the showrunner, worked as well. So obviously they've worked together in the past too, which is pretty good. John, do you want to give a summary of the episode?
Sure. Heedless of warnings, Yennefer looks for a cure to restore what she lost. Geralt inadvertently puts Jaskier in peril. The search for Ciri intensifies.
I've got this written down as the Doppler Djinn episode. 2 completely different parts of the story that are going on. I'm going to kick off with my first big moment for the episode, which is the opener with the Doppler. This doppelganger, I suppose, is the term for him. He's able
What
to take,
an opening it was.
Yes, able to take the shape of anybody that he wants to, and very proudly opens up the episode and takes off his clothes to admire his new form. This Doppler is a really interesting character. He seems very evil. I like when Cahir comes and meets him for the first time and kind of says to him, you're not like all the rest of the Dopplers. You do this for fun. You do this for the joy of killing people and taking their skins, basically.
Yeah, well, you definitely see a few trophies, and dare I say, if he was in the WWF series, he would be the narcissist.
I like it.
Yeah, it's a strange opening. In that, like, that's a lot of
buttocks.
Well, yeah, no, I was more going. They channeled, put the lotion in the basket. I'm so sexy. That scene from Silence of the Lambs.
Really?
But like, it's just kind of just there, just kind of like da da da. Look at me in the mirror. I'm so sexy. I don't know. It was just quite a strange thing. Dopplers in the source material in the games, they're just more of annoyance. Yes, they can change into anyone, but they're usually not very aggressive. So like, yeah, like we're told straight away that you're not like the others.
Yeah.
It's just a strange, it was a great, no, sorry. That came across as if I almost disliked it. No, this was a great opening. It was such a strange opening, such a fantastic way to be introduced to the Doppler.
Well, I feel like a shapeshifter in a game is quite difficult to get across, because in a game you're usually just hacking with a sword to kill things, a lot of the time. Otherwise it's really long cutscenes. So using it to dramatic effect in the show, I think makes a lot of sense. I presume in this original novels, stories, there's probably some Dopplers in there that make for the dramatic tension of you don't know if the person opposite you is the Doppler or not. And I think later on in the series they do that really well, where you can kind of shift in and out between anybody in a room could be the Doppler. I think that's kind of a cool touch to the character.
Yeah, I mean, I think as well, he's obviously, he may be a slightly off-center Doppler. I love the fact that when he's asked by Cahir to take on Mousek's form, and he's just like, I've only just gotten this perfect specimen. Like and the fact that you've seen him looking in the mirror, he's kind of wanted to have, sexy, fit, sort of tempter, I suppose, and whatever he's going to do with that, because, you know, you see the trophies around his room, like an ear, and he enjoys kind of that hunt, where he kind of chases after Mouse Sack, even though it seemed a little short to me. You know, I always think, that it should have been a little longer. It was kind of like, now run, and then immediately went after him. And I was like, well, there's not too much sport in that chase, is there really? But
it was very cruel, though.
Yeah.
It was one of the things I did notice about that scene. This was my point about Mousesack and the Doppler when he takes over the form. It's very cruel. It's done as run, and he gets caught almost instantly, you know, and there's no reason for it. He could have literally just done it as he does a number of other times in the show. He could have taken the form of him without hopping on top of him and then stabbing him in the throat, you know? He does this because he enjoys the cruelty of it.
To Chris's point, it is, you know, Buffalo Bill almost. It's that enjoyment of the process.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, does he even need to kill anyone? Because he does take the form of Kahir, later on.
Yeah.
And he's not killed him. So it would just seem that he is a psychotic, Doppler.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. They don't need to. They just need to look at you.
Yeah.
And they can take you for him.
I'm wondering, there's also a great touch in it that he takes all of the memories and all of the things that they've done in the past. Is that maybe something he gets a stronger version of all of his past or history? I don't know. It seems to fall through a couple of other times with the other people that he takes the form of. The knowledge that he has of them seems to not be as good as the knowledge he has of Mousesack. So maybe the act of the aggression gives him even more information, or the death of him gives him all the information over. I can't tell. It's not really clear from the show whether that's in there, but it just feels like he's being cruel and he seems to enjoy it, basically. But I really like that as kind of the opening scene in this and introducing this new character. Also great props to the stage design or the set design for the mirrored wall that he had in front of him, the perfectly placed mirrors, so his modesty was contained. You couldn't see anything other than the backside. That's it. So well done, guys. Well done.
Well, absolutely. I mean, there were a lot of backsides in this episode,
yes, there were.
In fairness, and a lot of everything else as well.
Mm-hmm. That was my big moment from the episode. But one of the other moments I did want to talk about was I was so intrigued by Yennefer's story at the beginning of this episode, where she effectively is kind of like a traveling mage going around selling her wares. And as the episode progresses, suddenly has ownership of a castle. I think that's a really interesting change for Yen. I love that she seems a little bit down on her luck, is about to get arrested by the mayor of this town. And then the next time you see her, she's controlling everybody in the village. Everybody's under her spell, and she's got a castle. Like, that's such a cool thing for this character. You know, she's really using all of her powers to ascend, I suppose, and get whatever she wants to. I love that that's exactly what the mayor says. This woman just gets whatever she wants. Nobody can refuse her.
Yeah, definitely. And certainly, it made for some really funny, moments as well. I really like this. Just even, I think the mayor in the kitchen, in the nud, just kind of spouting kind of nonsense, you know, because she's in his head, or and just that interaction with Geralt, where he's like, "What is going on here?" I think was really good.
She wants apples.
Exactly, really nice. But I suppose my point really for this episode was the Djinn and Jaskier. Of course, Djinn is the best spirit in the world, and I did love the fact that this was a edgy Djinn as well, and that this, you know, it doesn't like being contained, it doesn't like to have these wishes over it, and, you know, it was very chaotic, and I really enjoyed having this spirit sort of dominating Geralt, as well as Jaskier, and the attack on the bard, where, you know, it's attacking his throat, where Jaskier is just kind of listing off wishes. But of course, it's Geralt who has those wishes. He is the master of this Djinn. And ultimately, this leads to him having to go to the village where he needs to find a mage for the cure, the magical cure for Jaskier. But I really like this. I just like the fact that it was an evil Djinn in a sense. Yeah. I don't think it was supposed to be evil. And I think Geralt always kind of said it's because it likes to be left alone.
Mm-hmm.
It's because it was captured.
Yeah.
How would you like to be? How would you like it if you were held captive? I think that's what he says to Yennefer.
Exactly. So it's kind of, all this sort of pent up anger is all coming out. So he attacks Jaskier, but it's kind of that nice, refreshing change from Aladdin, I suppose, in that sense.
Well, absolutely. Yeah.
And I liked how it was captured, where it did feel like smoke, and you do get the form of the djinn every so often, and just how it sort of brings Geralt and Yennefer into the same space as he goes looking for a cure. Yeah. I have to say as well, just the whole introduction between Geralt and Yennefer with the kind of orgy that's going on. And I have to say, Jaskier, I loved his face because, he's kind of dying. He's bleeding from the mouth, but his eyes are kind of like big marbles, just like going, what is going on? And then he doesn't really have any strength. So he's just kind of, he's in amongst all these naked people who are writhing and doing their thing. And his eyes are kind of like, just like, get me out of here, help me. Even though, he's up against, I think a number of breasts at one point as Geralt and Yennefer are sort of having their first big meeting and conversation. So I kind of really liked Jaskier's awkwardness and sort of in this moment, and a bit later on where he's effectively saying I certainly didn't butter that biscuit, as he's wondering about whether he has slept with Yennefer. And I was having a dream about women, which was good, but then I woke up and I was having a nightmare. It wasn't so good with Yennefer. So really, I did absolutely think Jaskier was great in this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I criticized him early on. I didn't criticize him. I said the character's supposed to be irritating and annoying. But in this episode, I have to say, I felt very sorry for him. That looked really painful, seeing his throat expand, and that was effectively a mistaken wish, kind of the classic trope, I suppose, where you make a wish and it's slightly different than what you think. You hear Geralt saying, I just want some peace. And the peace that he gets is poor Jaskier in this much pain and almost dying effectively. So, I thought that was quite interesting. Just wanted to check, guys, the reason why the wishes were Geralt's and not Jaskier's, is that because Geralt cuts his arm the first time from the container? And you see later on when he makes the second wish, or when the second wish is coming true, he gets another slash in his arm to follow it. Is that something that you guys caught?
I took it as he opened it. So actually, Geralt was holding the stopper, and he opened it. So he was actually the one who like literally rubbed the lamp.
Yeah.
Whereas it was Jaskier holding the lamp.
Yeah, that's how I took it.
That's the way I took it. Is that it was you think that because Jaskier's holding it, he gets the wishes, but it's actually the action of breaking the seal, which is we have the seal of the kind of sorcery of whoever sealed that djinn. Yeah.
It was just that moment when he's on the ground trying to pick up the broken vial, I suppose, or the broken container after Jaskier's dropped it. You see him holding it in his hand, and then he gets the slash in his arm. So I just thought that maybe the connection between the two things was what's causing it, but that makes sense as well. I did really like the orgy idea, John. I think we talked about it afterwards, that kind of funny scene. It almost feels like everybody that came to Yennefer for help, if she didn't like what they were asking for, she just added them to the orgy, because I love that moment where she kind of snaps her fingers and all these people look at each other going, what the hell was I just doing?
Well, that's true, because I did think it was weird that that's how you would spend your Friday afternoon, or Friday evening, dare I say it, just kind of presiding over this orgy, because she's just literally just there watching. Yeah. So if Geralt hadn't arrived, would she just have sat there and watched, which I thought was a little creepy, for sure. But thankfully, Jaskier and and Geralt do turn up and are caught up in the orgy for the laughs. Certainly, with, Jaskier, the bard. Also, I did like Geralt's entrance to the mansion house with the guard, where he does say money opens all doors, so it does, as he uses the bag of gold coin to whack the guard. I thought that was very funny. I do like the intonation of Henry Cavill as the Witcher. I like the deadpan, sort of, I am a big man, kind of thing, doing short, sharp quips or just generally swearing. Mm-hmm. I think he does that, really, really nicely. I think it really fits, the character. But of course, I think, Chris, you have the next big point with Geralt and Yen, and of course with the djinn being very central, to this.
Yeah. So my big point is the last wish. The last wish this is something that has then huge implications for the story in general. Mm-hmm. But the one thing I did want to say is, wouldn't you have, I've seen a few people say, oh, well, you didn't get to really see the djinn, did you? It's just kind of, it was ethereal and kind of just went up into the sky.
It's the smoke monster.
And I went, well, yeah, a smoke monster, but I was like, would you really have wanted kind of like a Robin Williams-esque or
exactly.
a kind of Will Smith-esque, just like, hey, did it, da, 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 just kind of like jumping around and like, yeah, it would have given us a few more musicals, but that would have been about it.
We have enough.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen Aladdin 2019 already. Anyway, so my bit is the last wish. Mm-hmm. So what I found really a lot of enjoyment from this is we get the reveal that it's actually Geralt who has the wishes. That like, so actually when you rewatch it, the cuts that we see on his arm is after he just wishes like Jaskier will shut up. Mm-hmm. So they come around the same time. So I was just really amused by that, because when you go back and watch it, he does say the lines.
Yeah.
That he's just like, I wish you would just shut the hell up and blah, blah, blah. And then we get the basically reveal that Yen is dying by trying to contain the djinn in herself. So we start to see, and we get backstory at the beginning of this, kind of, we get exposition that Yen now just, the one thing she wants is a child. Mm-hmm. She has all the power that she needs, but because that power came at the cost of being a mother, that she's unhappy with that cost now.
Well, absolutely.
So she's been doing everything she can over the last few years. She's left the circle to find a power that will restore that option to her. Yeah. Because that's the thing. She wants the option.
And she's looking for, I took it as she's looking for more power. Like, she wants to obviously have her womb back effectively. She wants to be able to have a child. But she's curing Jaskier simply to control the djinn, as you say, Chris, because she thinks he has the wishes. He is the master, and so to ensnare the djinn. But she's always looking for power. That's the thing I've always kind of, at this moment in the series, with Yennefer, is that she's always looking for more power, for various different ends, which is really interesting.
Well, I think it kind of translates to what we talked about in our last part. You know, there's a cost to power, is what everybody keeps telling her. And she wants to have everything. She says, that's exactly the line she says in this episode, I want to have everything. So the idea that she has had to give up her ability to have children, she in fact calls it was taken away. They will take away your ability to have children in order to get the power. Because that's been done to her, she's going, well, I need to find a way to bring that back as well. So I have everything that I used to have plus all the power effectively. So I think that's quite interesting. You know, this idea that to her, it's not an exchange in order to get more power, even though that's what happened. She feels that was taken away from her to get power, and now she wants it back. So she's now going around this world trying to find any cure for the thing that was taken away from her. Yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I do like that, especially because it does lead to what we get in this episode, which is the binding of, well, yeah, I suppose I can say it now because we're reviewing all of them. Mm-hmm. The binding of Geralt and Yen.
Yeah.
So we don't hear what the last wish Geralt wished for. He wished to save Yen, but he was like, we never actually hear exactly how he phrases it in the TV show. Mm-hmm. But in episode 6 at the end, we find out that it was she was saved from the Jinn by Geralt because he basically wants to tie their fates together.
Okay.
Essentially, he ties them together. So that's what we find out in this TV show. Mm-hmm. It's laid out a lot better in the books.
Right.
I read this story now. Mm-hmm. Since we've started recording these, I've started reading some of the short stories and some of the overall novels. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten up to the Last Wish. I'm past it actually now. It's laid out a lot better in the books. Mm-hmm. It's more explicit, I should say.
Yeah.
When you find out how they bonded, well, what was said to bond it together, because we just don't know. Essentially, all he said we know is that Geralt wished Yen to be
saved.
Yeah.
But we find out that it means much more. But I think this is, again, that's the kind of trope of a wish. You know, everybody thinks, I'll wish for $1 million, I'll wish for a great house, and I wish for more wishes, is what everybody says. But what we find out repeatedly throughout all of fantasy is effectively, if you make wishes, you don't get exactly what you want out of the wishes. Yeah. So him saying, I want her to be alive forever, and the Jinn goes, oh, you want her to be alive? Well, then the two of you will be bound together forever, effectively, to ensure that she stays alive forever, kind of thing, you know? So that, I love that. Again, it's magic at a cost. It's another one of those, tropes, for want of a better word. That's kind of it for the 3 main points. Anything else you want to, discuss on this first episode, guys?
Yeah, so we need to discuss something very quickly here. Mm-hmm. We're going to go completely off topic, and I just want to hear what everyone thinks is, how the hell is Jaskier immortal now?
Immortal, yeah.
Immortal. Like, he is just, so in the beginning of this episode, he literally says it's been a decade since he's spoken to Geralt. It says a decade since Geralt left him in the court.
Yeah.
Basically in Sintra, and since that whole Pravat and all that kind of has come about. Mm-hmm. But Jaskier does not look a day older.
I did laugh at that. Yeah, I was kind of going, he looks like he just went and changed his shirt. Surely they could, make him look like he hadn't shaved for a few days, maybe.
Just something.
It's the magic of music, Chris. You know, if he sings a good song, it de-ages him. You know, maybe that's it.
He's young as well.
He needs the aging cream. But so it's laid out that it's even expressly said that magic and mutation slow aging. Mm-hmm. So that's why Yennefer and Geralt and all the other major characters are not aging.
Yeah.
And they even age Queen Calanthe. Mm-hmm. So they just forgot to age Jaskier?
Or it's something for season 2.
Maybe. I just assumed because he was young.
Yeah.
And he's not really changed that much. He's not hit 40, so, he's kind of thereabouts.
10 years seems like a significant one. I know, sometimes you meet old schoolmates and you go, you haven't changed it today, but you're usually just being kind. They've gotten grey hairs, they've gone a little bit bald, they've got a little bit of a paunch, or they are growing a beard, something like that. But 10 years is
maybe massive. He looks after himself. Maybe he moisturizes, he takes his vitamins.
True,
if
they even grade Mossack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Mossack's an old dude. A Mousack even, yeah. But if he's barding away in big halls and all that, then he's eating well, he's kind of got, it's the equivalent of a luxury hotel in this world, being in the palace or the castle. So maybe it's just he looks after himself and moisturizes.
Absolutely.
And there's plenty of pills and potions out there, so maybe there's a slight potion that allows him to keep young.
Absolutely. And remember, how many famous people look really young in comparison to the people that they're in school with or the people that they know in their real life.
He's basically just had Botox and filler.
He's basically Tom Cruise, the singer.
Magical Botox.
One of the one I just wanted to comment on was there's a mention in here of the scent of lilac and gooseberries, and it's not really explained. It's when Yen is trying to control Geralt, and he goes, "Oh, the scent of lilac and gooseberries." We did start the Witcher game last week, and the opening scene, effectively, of Witcher 3 is him going, "She smells of lilac and gooseberries." So it's obviously something that the scent of lilac and gooseberries follows Yennefer around, kind of like the scent of her magic. But it's not very well explained in this show, and I didn't really understand it from the game, other than he seems to follow her around the world using this scent.
It's essentially that's her. Anytime he thinks of her, he smells that. Mm-hmm. Anytime they meet, that's like even before, because the Witcher's noses are kind of tuned up. Mm-hmm. So, like in episode 6, you see that kind of like he does that kind of look off and sniff, and then he sees Yen. Yeah. So it's always that lilac and gooseberries either precedes her or follows her.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least it's lilac and gooseberries, and it's nothing like Gwyneth Paltrow's scents that she's coming out with.
Oh dear!
Oh, goop!
Oh dear, John.
Oh God!
let's move away from that.
Yeah. But I will say that there was a discussion for all our fellow kind of watchers and witchers. There was a very brief discussion because Goop has its own Netflix show now. Should we podcast on it? The answer is no.
No, we will not be podcasting on that at all, though. Definitely not. A final thing just to mention in this episode, Yennefer is visited by Tiso, who tells her that the mage who took over her role in Nilfgaard is Fringilla. She's working with the rightful heir now. So this is the job that Yennefer fell out of in the previous episodes we were talking about. And effectively, this is what kicks off the entire war, is that Fringilla is working with what they call the rightful heir. And this is what kicks off the big battles that are going on in the series. So it's from this scene between Yennefer and Tiso, it sounds like if Yennefer had just done her job and stayed there in that court that she was bored of after 3 decades working there, if she just stayed there, maybe all the wars wouldn't have happened and all these people wouldn't have died. I just think it's an interesting little bit of the episode there. Yeah,
no, definitely. I think Fringilla definitely becomes very central later on, and there is a little bit of sarcasm and skit from the mages around what would have happened if Yennefer had remained in Nilfgaard and actually gone there, rather than her becoming pretty and moving to what was seen as a more high profile sort of royal house.
Right.
So that was I kind of quite like that. So, with that, on to episode 6, Rare Species. Derek, what are some of the directing and writing details on this?
Well, the episode was directed by Charlotte Brändström again. It was written by Hayley Hall, who was a production assistant on TV show Power in 2017, and then became a staff writer on this season of The Witcher, and this is her episode of the show. So I love seeing that progression. We've seen it a number of times on the Netflix shows and that kind of stuff, where you see somebody moving up to the position of a writer on the show from working as production assistant. I don't know. I just really like that progression for writers, that there is a path.
It's really nice to see.
Shows. Yeah. John, do you want to give us the summary?
Sure. A mysterious man named Borch Three Jackdaws tries to entice Geralt to join a hunt for a rampaging dragon, a quest that attracts a familiar face. Meanwhile, Ciri questions who she can trust. So yes, a dragon hunt. We see dragons in this world. And just to say, Borch Three Jackdaws was played by Ron Cook from Hot Fuzz, one of the 3 cornetto parts to the trilogy.
Yes, wasn't he the drunken man who tried to cook himself up some
a fry up whilst drunk?
Well,
yes.
Really drunk. Yes, that's the one.
And ultimately, he is blown up.
Yes, he didn't last very long.
Well, he's killed actually, and then blown up.
That's what happens when you cook a fry up drunk.
Exactly.
It's just true life.
Chris, do you want to kick us off with your big moment for episode 6?
Yes. Actually, before I kick off, I want to take one aside, right? Which is, this is one of the things I really enjoy about The Witcher. It's Game of Thrones-esque in that it's a real world. There are complete beasts in the world. But there's also some really nice people. There's monsters, and then there's monsters that are not bad. So we have the creature that Jaskier, basically finds in the bushes is a Hirika.
Okay.
And these are in the games, and they're not bad. They're cute looking bipedal kind of dogs.
Right.
So, but actually, really strangely, is in the Witcher lore, and I only know this because in the game, they're almost extinct.
Right.
Like, they're more rare than a dragon.
Oh, wow.
So when Yurik kills and, like, dismembers one of them, I'm just like, they should have played on that more. It just shows how much of a he is.
Well, I do like the fact that poor creature did take its revenge from beyond the grave with the squits from Sir Nightalot. Yes. I thought that was sweet justice, because it was kind of like it almost felt like he was a knight that really hadn't proven himself yet, and he thought this was, I know, let's do it on the equivalent of a little kitten that is starving and goes completely overboard. So, of course, everyone else there who has seen battle, has fought monsters, and so on are like going a little over the top.
Yeah.
Sir Nightalot.
If you had walked away, if we had fed it, it would have gone.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. I love the reaction of everybody to this character all the time. It's like, we get it for kingdom and glory, okay. And I kind of like the idea that effectively Yennefer is bringing him with her to sacrifice him, and he doesn't know it. You know? I just think that's really a good idea. It's like, well, he'll probably die, but I accomplish my goals, so I'll put up with this boring, blusterous dude so that I get what I want. You know, I really like that kind of idea from Yennefer.
But speaking of that sacrifice, my main point really is it's the dragon theme throughout this. The dragon, the plot point, which is we know that, Borch kind of essentially takes or hires Geralt for this quest to stop the rampaging dragon. We know, and he's like, well, dragons are rare. We don't usually hunt them because you don't need them. They don't attack people. We see the great trek forward through the mountains to get there. And what I really enjoy is the twist on the ending.
Yeah, me too.
Like, it's not they get to a dragon and they have to kill the dragon. It's not they get to the dragon, they have a nice chat with the dragon, etc., and then everything's fine. It's unique that you get there. Well, first of all, you find out that Borch was a golden dragon, which is great, because that has to come back into play later, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Because he's the rarest of the rare. But it's also that the green dragon was pregnant. She basically had laid her eggs. She was just protecting her egg, and she's died because of it.
Yeah.
So now there is a motherless egg with Borch.
And they can't move the egg, can they? Otherwise, the life inside will be destroyed. So, no, I agree. I thought this was a great undercutting of dragons, because
that's the best way to put it. Thank you. That's
definitely, like, I love the idea. It was this of keeping your enemies closer, so they go with all the hunters. And you've got these two kick-ass ladies that are protecting Borch, who you just think is an old man, and then he is a dragon in human form, and then you see that his kind of waistcoat or his overcoat has that scaly look to it, which is really nicely done.
I love that conversation between Jaskier and his two protectors where he's going, why are you hanging out with them? I presume you're hired hands? And they're like, no, he's the most beautiful, and look at him as if he's crazy, you know? I think that's a really good little moment between the two of them. And the fall off the side of the mountain, I think that's cool. That really reminded me of something like Lost Boys. Do you remember that, where they're hanging under the bridge and they drop into the fog below, and then you realize that they're supernatural beings, so they're able to escape effectively. So that's kind of what happens with these three. They all fall off the side of the mountain and they're saved by him transforming back into his gold dragon form. I think that's just such a cool little concept, because you don't think they're going to be coming back.
No.
But there's also another little touch here as well, a little bit of maybe Agatha Christie kind of murder mystery, as effectively he's murdering some of the hunters as they're going up the hill, or himself and his partners are murdering them as they're going up the hill, so that they never make it to their quest of killing the dragon. I think that's kind of cool, because you would not point the finger at him at all. You would not think that he's the one that's taking out people's weapons and killing people on the way up. But that's part of his mission before he gets there, and then gets Yen and Geralt to protect his final destination, I suppose.
Well, because the knight is slayed whilst he is squatting for his number 2.
Who would do that? I don't know who would do that.
A fitting end for a knight so unchivalrous.
Absolutely.
I think the other thing I really liked about this was because they get to the dragon and Yennefer switches once she understands that the female dragon was protecting her egg. Mm-hmm. And because of the situation she finds herself, where she has given up the ability to have children for power, and she wants it back so badly that ultimately she turns on this moment to protect the dragon and the egg from all these sort of these groups of men who are there to slay the dragon, take the egg, and so on. And I think that's really nice, because I think it really does say for Yennefer that she, you know, we were kind of saying, well, is she the big bad? Is she the evil one? But at least at this moment, there's a rationale to her that is incredibly human, and that maybe, you know, her previous life when she was disfigured and in the village, she understands people ganging up on individuals or other creatures. Again, when you're seeing the knight killing the poor creature, you know, the look on her face as well. So I think that's a really nice aspect of Yennefer here in this this dragon quest that we have when they get to the nest.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because very early, just before that, Geralt has already turned on the idea of killing the dragon, and it's trying to convince Yennefer, and then she's kind of going, no, I've still got my mission. But when she finally realizes, I suppose, she does go on his side. I do think that's really interesting. Your big moment for the episode, John, is about them as well, isn't it? Towards the end of the episode.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that we see here a passing of ways of both Yennefer and Jaskier from Geralt with different ways. As Chris was saying, you know, there's the moment when Yennefer realizes the wish that Geralt made, and she wants no part of him again. Mm-hmm. And at that moment, I was like, oh no, we've just got them together, and now she's wanting nothing more to do with him, and she goes off on her separate way. And then we have this falling out between Jaskier and Geralt, and they split and part ways. You know, Geralt has almost just had enough of the bard's incessant chit chat and one-off remarks, and because he's just had that passing of ways with Yennefer, again he takes it out on Jaskier. And again, it's just such a contrast to the previous episode where he was doing everything to try and save Jaskier, and you have that moment where I think when he's in prison with the elf. After, and you've got the guard coming to effectively take him to the gallows, where they're talking about, Geralt and Jaskier being friends. So, you know, you kind of see here in this moment, this parting of ways, you know, a splitting of friendship, a splitting of this sort of destined relationship of Geralt and Yennefer, and the friendship of Jaskier and Geralt. So, that was my big point here, because it felt really big that he was losing these two companions at the end of this episode, and how or if they would ever come back together again within the remaining episodes. So I'm glad there's a season 2.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the interesting things about how this show is structured, isn't it? Because time moves so differently in this show. Sometimes you're directly following on from the exact end of an episode, but one of the stories, usually with Ciri, that seems to play out in real time all the time. Whereas other times you hear something like Jaskier going, maybe we'll have to wait another decade before you'll call me friend. We've already had 1 decade gone by, you know? So, and you hear that himself and Yennefer have met multiple times since their first meeting in episode 5. They met multiple times up to episode 6. He's always around when bad things are happening, kind of thing. So, so they have developed a relationship between all 3 of these characters, not just on screen, but in a number of years off screen, which I think is interesting. Does that mean in season 2 they might look at some stories that may have happened in between the episodes, effectively, as their way of kind of doing this flashback structure again in season 2, do you think?
I do. I think that's what we're going to get in season 2, which I think is they'll do some of the short stories, which is kind of like, and that will give us our flashback. That they'll be our timey-wimey chain. That will be the timey-wimey part for season 2. Which is the flashback to when they saved the kingdom of X by just the 3 of them again.
Yes.
Because that's the thing. Jaskier and Geralt kind of float in and out together. They do travel quite a lot, but then they go off. So I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see how they'll do that.
Yeah. I do like that effectively Jaskier comes in to top up his song book effectively to kind of meet up with them and go, have you had any adventures recently that I could write about? I love, again, when he's going along with all of these hunters and he's kind of getting some stories off them. He's like, oh, this would make a #1 single. It's kind of what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
This would pay for my food all the way through winter, you know?
Just quickly, Derek, before as well we go on to your big point, the one thing I'd love to see in season 2, as you said, we started playing the Witcher game and there is an opening part to it where there is a great death as a raven flies through the eye of the king with the big sword, who I'm not entirely sure who that is. It could be Cahir. I don't know.
No, we only literally started the game, so we don't know yet.
But I was just like going, wow, that is literally one of the best death scenes I've seen in a long time. So I hope we get that in season 2.
That was very cool. I'm going to talk about the Doppler again for my other big moment. Am I the only one that likes this character?
Look at you. You are just obsessed with the Doppler.
I think it's a great character. I really like this whole concept of what it's doing. It's just going around possessing different people in this world. And it kind of felt like the Thing to me. Now, I will admit, I can't remember exactly where the story ends, whether it's this episode or the next episode. You guys might need to correct me, but I'm not going to talk about it for episode 7, I promise. Just going to talk about it in this episode as he is in the form of Mousak. Big props to the actor who plays Mousak. He feels completely different than he has all the other episodes. You know, he was that really friendly character when he was talking to Geralt, who's kind of patting him on the back, and the two of them have a really good relationship. You see him as the supportive, instructive person when he's talking to the lioness, the queen, as he's been working with her for years. And now when he's walking with Ciri out of the forest, you see how annoyed he's getting at this child asking him questions and questioning his motives all the time. I really like how that's being played by the actor who's playing Mousak. I think that's really, really good. But Ciri has listened to the advice and realizes that she needs to ask all the right questions, and she starts asking all the right questions of this character who knows everything about Mousak. But what he may not know is the feeling and intimacy between Ciri and Mousak in the past. He may not understand the detail behind it because he still has his own personality underneath it all, which I just kind of like that revelation comes in. Ciri, once again, is left all alone when she does find out that this is a Doppler and not her friend. Dara walks away from her, effectively leaving her behind, and she gets away from the Doppler. And then what I really like is that he takes on the form of Ciri to go back to Cahir, as if saying, I have captured her, kind of thing. But the reason why I've chosen this as my point is because, well, I was kind of right. I said that the last time we saw Ciri and Cahir face to face, there was a look on Cahir's face looking like he was actually trying to save her. not trying to kill her, which everybody had made the assumption that he was trying to murder her effectively. But what we hear here in this conversation between the Doppler version of Ciri and Cahir is he's saying to her, I'm really sorry that I scared you. I didn't want to scare you. If there was any other way that I could have gotten you and gotten to you, I would have done it, but this is the only way. He believes he's trying to save Ciri. Like any good bad guy, he's justified what his intentions are with our main character. So I do like that. I was right. It was just one of those weird things that kind of popped into my head when I saw the interaction between the two of them. But I like that this is how it plays out in the episode.
Yeah, I'm really glad that they're pulling it this way, in that Cahir is a zealot, and we don't know why, but to them, Cirilla is the prophesized something.
Yes.
She is going to save something. Like, again, we're learning slowly more and more. But yeah, you were right. We thought it was just he was the bad guy.
Yeah.
But again, it's one of the things I'm enjoying about the Witcher universe, and actually how they've translated this, which is, yes, it's the tropes, but it's a slight twist on the tropes. And I think that's one of the things that keeps me enjoying it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I think as well with Cahir, he is trying to save her, but to what end? You know, I think we really do get that idea. He is in some way a zealot of some description, of something that he believes in totally, and nothing else will change his mind. So he is pure driven, and he feels entitled to do what he's doing in bringing this war to the world of The Witcher. So he wants to save her, but what does that mean? You know, what is it that he wants to save her for? For him, for his own gain, for his kingdom's gain, or because she is somehow central in making him even more powerful?
Is she just another, powerful weapon for them to use in their war? Yeah. It would be stupid of me not to also talk about the Cahir versus Doppelganger fight, where Doppelganger takes over Cahir's body and the two of them fight against each other. I think that's really good because, again, you have this idea that the Doppler learns all of your abilities and has all your knowledge as well while fighting against you. So how would you beat yourself if your opponent has all of your skills? And then it turns into a bit like The Thing, one of my favorite movies of all time, where the Doppler leaves the room and Cahir follows him out into a room full of people and goes, is he still here or has he left? I'll slaughter everybody in the room to try and find out whether this Doppler's gone or not. I think that's really, really good when you see Cahir sitting on the floor covered in blood and just bodies everywhere around him. I think that's such a great little image that you have of this character.
What I find interesting is the Doppler now has a cut on its face and is Cahir, right? So it's escaped potentially.
Yeah.
That's going to come back to in season 2. Will it use the form of Cahir to do stuff?
Yeah.
And is it now going to be it's that kind of, how do we know it's the bad Cahir? Because it got a cut on its face versus a good Cahir who doesn't.
For some reason, it has a goatee that won't go away every time he transforms. Even into Ciri, he's got a goatee to prove that he's the evil guy. Yeah.
Well, that's true, actually, because, I mean, has there been potentially a sleight of hand here in a card trick in that fight where, later on in episode 7, episode 8, are we absolutely sure that this is the original Cahir that was there before that fight between him and the Doppler as Cahir? I didn't spot the slice as such, and maybe that's just for convenience at the moment to make that distinction. Absolutely,
right. Yeah.
Because otherwise the Doppler's power suddenly gets undermined a little if it takes on a scar and can't get rid of it when it changes into another person.
You have to always explain it away, kind of thing.
Which, to be honest, when he changes from the good-looking dude into Mouse Sack, he just changes to Mouse Sack, as far as I could see. So It may have just been to identify who was what, but I can't imagine that he would take the scar with him or the goatee beard. It was almost like it was just in the process of changing. Maybe he hadn't fully formed or something. Maybe it's something around that. But then I think the bigger question for me is, has there been that sleight of hand, that magician's card trick that we will find out probably in season 2?
Right. I'm not sure whether there is a swap. I think it is the original Cahir that we see for the rest of the other 2 episodes. The cut that's on his face that you're talking about, Chris, let's just make sure that I've got it in my head. That's from when Dara and Ciri are fighting him with the silver, and he gets damaged by the silver, isn't it? And that's why he's got this permanent cut.
No, Cahir slices him in the fight.
Oh, okay, just with a regular sword, though.
With the regular sword.
So it's unlikely to stay on its face. If it was from the silver, then it was most likely to stay.
But they framed it. It was that framing that I'm like, okay, they're going to do something with this.
Right. Because he does get cut with silver from Ciri.
Yes.
So that would be more likely to remain as a permanent cut, because that's his biggest weakness, effectively. You see him jumping away when Cahir tries to throw them a bag of coins, and he goes, "Don't worry, there's no silver inside there," kind of thing. It's just regular coins. Yeah. So if Cahir had cut him with silver, I'd say you're probably right, Chris. That would be something that would be a distinguishing feature for the character into season 2. Whereas if it was just with his sword, he's probably faced off against much worse in the past than a few swords. So it may just disappear. So you could be right, John. Maybe he will be taking the place of him for those 2 episodes, and we don't know because there's no distinguishing feature anymore. He could have just cleared that pretty quickly after walking out of the place.
Yeah, I think it's just something to bear in mind moving forward, you know?
Yeah.
Just in case.
I don't know if we called this out in the last episode. Silver is the only way to harm magical beasts and things like that. That's why Geralt carries 2 swords.
Yes.
He has a normal sword, and then he has his silver sword.
Very good, yeah.
So that's that's why he's always carrying that big black the big black kind of sword sheath.
Yeah.
He usually keeps it on Roach when he has him. Or he carries it himself, and that's where the secondary sword is in, the silver sword.
Yes, we learnt that in the training module of fighting in the Witcher game, when we learnt that the normal blade is for humans, and creatures, non-magical creatures, and the silver one for creatures. And we can do a few rune blasts, like setting someone on fire.
Yes, we've played it for
excellent
15 minutes, I think.
Yes.
Just one last thing I want to mention before we get out of episode 6. I did like the little reference to the Hobbit from Jaskier as they get to the end of this whole battle with the dragons and all the hunters and everybody fighting against each other, and Jaskier wakes up and goes, "Did anything happen? What's going on, everybody? Is everybody okay?" He has missed this whole magical battle that's been going on. He is a bard. All of this would have made an amazing story to tell town to town across the world, but he's missed the whole thing. I feel like that's a reference to The Hobbit. We have that moment at the end of the original book of The Hobbit where Bilbo Baggins gets knocked out and misses the entire battle of the 5 armies that's in the book, and it just skips to the next page and he goes, "Oh, everybody okay?" So I just like that little touch that's in the episode.
Let's get on to episode 7, Before a Fall.
Yes, this episode was directed by Marc Jobst. We've talked about him a number of times. He's directed Hannibal, he's directed The Punisher, Luke Cage, and Daredevil before this episode and the final episode of this season of The Witcher. It was also directed by Alik Sakharov. This is his 3rd episode of The Witcher, but he did 4 episodes of Game of Thrones as cinematographer and director of that show. I really like that because this is the kind of grittier of the 2 battles, the less magic-y of the 2 battles in the last 2 episodes. Magic is not a word, I know. But I like the idea that they brought on someone from Game of Thrones to be involved in this real battle scene that's going on in Sintra. I think that's a really good choice to work with Marc Jobst, who's had much more experience with the Netflix shows and the big budget shows. But I like the idea that they brought somebody on to kind of help with this episode particularly.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to do it. Like when if you have experience in these framing these shots, if you have experience in kind of setting everything up so it looks good in the back end, then I think it makes sense to use that person.
Exactly, yeah. The episode was written by Mike Ostrowski. He's written a number of episodes for many, many shows, but he's done 6 episodes of the American version of Being Human as well. So dealing with some supernatural beings before, which is kind of cool. John, do you want to give the summary for the episode?
Sure. With the continent at risk from Nilfgaard's rising power, Yennefer revisits her past, while Geralt reconsiders his obligation to the law of surprise. Yes, so what is your big moment from episode 7, Chris?
So for me, it's the episode. No,
pretty much.
Pretty much. It's I'm doing a John on this. I'm going to go. This is my big point. It's the episode. No, the Battle of Sintra from Geralt's point of view, or the beginning of the Battle of Sintra, I should say, and how we see the missing words between that we saw in, or the different point of view of the very first episode with Queen Calanthe and Mousak.
Yes, absolutely.
So actually, I enjoyed this, the seeing, like, that's about to come out very wrong, but I enjoyed seeing the death of Queen Calanthe from Geralt's perspective.
Yeah. Which was also quite amusing. I did like the fact that he just kind of heard the thump and looked round, like going, "What was that?"
Yeah,
it was more amusing this time.
They played it weird on that one, didn't they? It was just like, oh, there she is.
It did seem to come off kind of fairly sort of powerful, rising, emotional music as well, and then it was like dumph, and like Geralt's kind of like quizzical look on his face, like, what was that?
And I really enjoyed, so those, what we thought were, I don't know what we thought from episode 1 where Queen Calanthe's talking to Mousak, and seeing him kind of like, go get Geralt.
Yes,
save him. But he's downstairs. Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
All those kind of whispers. And then actually I don't know what we thought they were. I can't remember what I thought they were, but now I know what they are. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. Yeah. That's what they were talking about.
Well, I think we just assumed that it was her giving instructions to get Ciri away and safe, you know? It's interesting when you think back to that first episode, the 3 of them are on horses trying to leave Sintra, get out of the place and run away. And really, Geralt is very, very close at the time when they're running away. It's
absolutely.
Like, why are they riding so fast on the horses inside Sintra when he's just inside the gatehouse over there?
No, absolutely. It's funny you said timey-wimey before, Chris, for episode 6, because I actually have timey-wimey in my notes for episode 7. Because, here, this is where we realize he isn't actually that far behind Ciri in terms of time, but in terms of proximity as well. And that point of view element, as you say, Chris, from your point, is just really, it's really nice to have this moment from episode 1 being revisited in episode 7 with that different point of view. And also just seeing how Queen Calanthe is a little more, shall we say, anti-Geralt? You know, it's like, you know, she tries to kill him, then she lies to him, and then they capture him and imprison him. So it's like, yeah, she really didn't like the fact that a hedgehog was marrying her daughter.
Yeah, I forgot that. Like, we knew there was timey-wimey things happening. And it was, literally, I thought they'd almost stopped that the last episode.
Oh, okay.
But it was just, again, it's another perspective. And it's interesting that looking back now, that knowing what we know at the end of episode 7, or actually it's in episode 8, everything was crossing over so much and we actually didn't know.
Yeah.
It was happening years ago, but it was 2 ships passing in the night, but narrowly missing each other.
Well, I can say it now. The map and the detail from Netflix that came out about the timeline for the show is over 50 years for the first season of the show.
Nice.
The 30 years of the show is roughly the time that we don't see Yennefer on screen. That's around 30 years. So that's taking up a lot of the timeline, obviously. But I must say, isn't it interesting? Like the first episode of the show, if you had followed this traditional storyline of the timeline starting right there, effectively by this stage, Geralt is on his own, has lost all of his friends, is no longer doing missions, and is just trying to save Ciri. So what a completely different character he would have been if you had just continued on from that point until now, rather than showing him kind of building up and generally going around this world taking jobs and killing monsters, you know? He's no longer that character. He's now taken on his destiny to try and protect and save Ciri. So I think that's a really interesting choice from the show to do that. Also, one of the things I want to point out, I think John actually has my point for this episode, so I'll drop in on yours, Chris. One of the things I like from this is Queen Calanthe seals her fate by not respecting the law of surprise, which I really like. She's told consistently, if you do not do this, and give up your grandchild to Geralt, which is what you have already agreed to in the law of surprise, you will die. You will lose your castle. You will lose your people, which is exactly what happens by her trying to kill Geralt, by her trying to lie to Geralt and send somebody else off. That's why she dies, or at least that's what you could infer if you're a person that believes in fate, which is, I kind of like the writing in that, you know? That you could infer that she almost did it to herself by not heeding the warnings of all the mages in the world that effectively said to her, you got laws of surprise, you got to go with them.
Yeah, you've got to honor it.
You've got to honor it. So I like that.
Yeah, no, it's true. John, what's your point on this?
I really enjoyed the meeting of the mages at Aretusa, the citadel of the ghouls, and the vote, because I think, one, it's coming off Yennefer returning there and her kind of having all these memories returning to her as to sort of her deformity, the change. Seeing now that there are girls there paying to attend the tutelage of Jaskier and other mages, and I think you then have this vote where all the mages around the table about whether they need to get involved with the war and with what Nilfgaard is doing in terms of their conquest of this world. We also have the put down from Stregobor as well, where he says, you know, maybe if Yennefer had gone to Nilfgaard instead of Fringilla, then they wouldn't be in this position to be attacking the world and conquests aplenty for them. But I think the vote ultimately is not to help Cintra, that they have spurned the mages in the past so that they should be allowed to continue that noble tradition, as Stregobor says. But we see Yennefer vote in favor of sort of intervening in this conflict to help Cintra, along with Jaskier as well. And that was kind of interesting, along with Fringilla, who talks about this white flame. We get this notion of the white flame, and that they are using dark magic, such as necromancy, dark potions, and demon spells, which we certainly see in episode 8.
I love that little touch there. There's no such thing as dark magic. It's just magic. We're using it for our ends and for our goals. There's no such thing as dark magic. That's just notions being put in your head by Aretusa. That's the notion that's put in your head. There's good and bad. There's no such thing. It's all magic. I like that kind of idea from there.
But we also see that Nilfgaard is actually conscripting mages into servitude. And I was certainly, we see in episode 8 that the magic that they're employing certainly seems to have a cost on the individual, maybe much more than normal magic, if you want, or the magic that is preached by Aretusa. So I really like this explanation around Fringilla, and she seems like she's really grown into this role.
Absolutely.
And certainly we see that further in episode 8. So this was a really fascinating character here around the table. And I like the fact that ultimately after the vote, we have this kind of rebel alliance and splinter group forming around Vilgefortz, who has met with Yennefer on the road, and also with Jaskier as well, her former teacher, and Yennefer is in that group as well, who vote to help Cintra and to stop the onward progression of Nilfgaard as a conquering army. So, and again, I suppose this white flame is an interesting aspect here, and I wonder if in some ways this relates to why Nilfgaard need to be going after Ciri, the reason why he wants to have Ciri and capture her. Again, just one of those theories, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yay!
Yeah. I think Lauren Schmidt has changed enough of the book and the games and the topics and the things that are happening in this that I really don't know where things are going.
Okay.
Interesting.
So the reason I say this is, so Vilgefortz is a major character in the books and in the games. And his role is slightly different now. Yeah, it's different.
Okay.
From what, and I don't like, in case they're going in season 2, I'm not going to I don't want to ruin things and things like that. But it makes me wonder, they're tweaking enough of the story. So they're taking, how do we put this? They're taking the tropes and they're tweaking them so that they're interesting, they're new, they're different. But also what I'm wondering if Lauren is taking the core concept that have already been tweaked and tweaking them again to make them different, to make this. So imagine you were watching an adaptation of Star Wars. You've already seen Star Wars. You know the beats and they're already kind of tweaks on tropes that you already know.
Yeah.
So what if this adaptation again was tweaking the story again?
Absolutely. And that's absolutely what a showrunner has to do. You know, the books are always going to be there. Go read the books if you want to see that story, I suppose. If the games are going to be there, go play the games if you want that story. And this is a TV show where everybody involved has to present something new for 8 episodes. So absolutely has to change things to fit the show. I wanted to just confirm Vilgefortz is the guy that has the awesome knife fight against Cahir in the final episode.
Yes.
There are so many characters in this show. So
yeah, and they introduce a lot of them in the last couple of episodes.
yeah, you know, I presume that's because we're leading up to this massive battle in episode 8 as well. So, but it is, you're right. He is a really interesting character when we get to that final episode. I do think they set him up at the end of that episode to play a big part in season 2, but we'll talk about that when we get to episode 8 in just a second. As I said, John kind of had the same point as me, but 2 things quickly that I just wanted to talk about at the end of this episode. The meeting between Yennefer and Istrid, just to comment on the fact that this is how you do a meeting of a character that haven't seen each other for 20 years. He's got a beard. He looks completely different. Doesn't look as good, unfortunately, as he used to do when himself and Yennefer were together. But I like the meeting of the 2 of them where she's kind of going, well, I kind of still love you, basically. And I have been able to use my beauty to get whoever I wanted in the world, but all they wanted was the power that they see in me. And he looks at her and goes, but I see the power that was inside you, and I'm the only one that's seen that. And she just kind of looks back at him, doesn't say a word, not revealing that Geralt has also seen that type of power from her as well. So I really like how that's played by the actress in that moment. I love that she presents it to him as, yeah, you're right, or you could be, but I'm not confirming that. That's really good.
Yeah, and I think Tasaya also knows the power that she has.
Absolutely,
as well.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I also enjoy when she's going back to Artusa to talk to the young girls who paid their way into the school, I guess. And she's kind of looking at them going, do any of you have any kind of magical abilities at all? Or did you just pay? Oh, well, we thought that the place deserved to have people from good families here. So what does she do? She basically cooks up a batch of LSD to give to these girls and tells them you'll never know the colors that you'll see when you're taking these drugs, basically. I just think it's quite funny where she's just going, well, this place has gone to the dogs. They're not even bringing in magic users anymore. They're just taking the money, you know? I
also got the sense that she was about to turn them into eels as well if Tassia hadn't come in and intervened at that moment. So yeah, I thought that was good. I loved all that kind of flashback. I liked the kind of the sense of bitterness and resentment about Aretusa and her time there. And I thought that was really, really good. Those memories, especially where she looks in the mirror to see her old form as well. I thought that sort of reflecting back on her as well.
Yeah.
Which I suspect would have been a bit of a double-edged sword in that, you know, she had to change from that to get this power of beauty, which has ultimately turned to dust, hasn't really promised what she thought it could do. And ultimately she's no longer, you know, she's not in that kingdom that is proving to be the one that has the power. That is Nilfgaard. And I think we get this I know it's in episode 8, but we do get that moment where Fringilla speaks to her in Elgin, saying about, this is where the power is. This is where you can fulfill your true potential.
You've wandered the world looking for all of the power, and you should have just come here because you can do whatever you want to, over here. I definitely want to make the point about that because that goes right back to what I said at the beginning of the season, when we get into episode 8. One other point that I just wanted to mention, because myself and John actually talked about this directly after the episode. We've been talking almost constantly throughout all of our discussions about this show and comparatives to Game of Thrones, just purely because Game of Thrones was the massive big budget show on TV for almost 10 years. And this is the next one that's going to kind of take over from it in a way. One of the things I just want to comment on was Ciri being attacked by the kids who she used to play, Knucklebone with.
Oh, yeah.
What I said directly after that scene was just, I'm so glad this isn't Game of Thrones, and I'm so glad we have a different showrunner, because that scene absolutely would have been those boys raping Ciri or attempting to rape her.
Exactly.
It's so good that they don't need to do that. The peril of having 5 bigger boys come along and go, we're going to kidnap you and give you over to the people that will pay the highest price is enough peril to have. But there's no way the showrunners of Game of Thrones would have been able to resist having another rape storyline in their show.
And I would have sensed that even if they hadn't done that, there would have been an intimation towards it if she doesn't behave, that, you know, we'll have our way with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it feels like Witcher is certainly about bigger themes, and they want to focus on this, you know, destiny, fate, the battles, the bigger world storytelling. Yes, there are intimate moments, but it's not throwaway intimate moments, which, in this sense, you know, this absolutely makes sense that these 4 Cintrons, to try and save themselves, would sell Ciri to the Nilfgaardians because of the bounty.
Yeah.
And hopefully then be able to live and not be sort of cut down by them. You know, it's a way of saving themselves.
Yeah. But even if their attack had ended exactly the same way, with them not being able to take her away, it absolutely would have been said in dialogue about them going to rape her. It absolutely would have been done in Game of Thrones. That would have been the thing that pushed her over the edge to use her massive power to kill them, you know? So I'm so glad we don't have to go through another one of those storylines in this show, which we went through multiple times over and over again in season after season of Game of Thrones, which I adore, still one of my favorite shows of all time, but it was something that they just lent on as a crutch. If there's a woman who's powerful, somebody will attempt to rape her and she'll either get out of it or won't. It's kind of the way they did it in that show.
I did feel that it was slightly implied to a degree.
No, I don't feel there was any implication at all of it. I think it was simply, we are going to take you away. I loved even the discussion between the two of them where they go, just remember, we always knew you were the princess. We just had to let you win this game of Knucklebone over and over again because you were a princess and you had a crown on your head. It was almost just like the Disney villainous story. There's no need that I'm so glad they didn't even have any kind of intimation in this episode. It would have been so explicit in any other show dealing with this genre.
Then my brain just filled in blanks to assume that when they were all grabbing her. And I think that's where my brain leapt to.
But I think it was to put her on the horse and to tie her up, to take her
to sell her to the Nilfgaards, because he actually says there's a king's ransom or something
exactly
for you. Wow. Okay.
See how often it's used as a trope, Chris?
Yeah, really. Wow.
I think as well, as a nice segue into our final episode 8, you know, in episode 7, we do see Ciri going very dark and stormy and you know, sort of testing the vocal cords out for the old scream. And I think going into episode 8, entitled Much More, I love seeing the aftermath of that. Certainly the overhead panning shot where unfortunately the horse has also been caught in this crossfire as she tries to save herself from being taken to the Nilfgaardians.
I love that black epicenter right in the center.
Yeah.
And all the grass all around is all cleared out in a circle as well. I think that's really cool.
Absolutely. And the woman carrying Ciri away from that epicenter. But yes, unfortunately, White Beauty got caught in that screamy crossfire.
Was it clip or was it clop? I don't think we ever found out.
Well, it's now
Nothing.
Yeah, it's now a fillet of horse and some glue, probably.
Nice. Right, let's get on to our final episode for the first season of The Witcher. Episode 8, as you mentioned, John, is called Much More, directed again by Marc Jobst. This one, of course, as we always say on a good show, was written by the showrunner Lauren Schmidt. She's written loads of episodes of TV, as we talked about before, including West Wing, Justice, written and produced shows like Daredevil, and was co-executive producer on Private Practice and on The Umbrella Academy. Also heavily involved in the TV show The Defenders, where we got our original podcast name of The Defenders TV Podcast. So lots of credit to Lauren Schmidt for all of her work that we've talked about over the years.
Yes. And it just keeps getting better.
Exactly.
Much like ours.
Yes. And of course, her showrunning work on Witcher is fundamental to the show. So, John, do you want to tell us what the summary for this episode is?
Sure. A terrifying pack of foes lays Geralt low. Yennefer and her fellow mages prepare to fight back, and a shaken Ciri depends on the kindness of a stranger.
In order to figure out exactly where we are on this, John, do you want to give us your first point? Because I think that kind of leads in with the summary as well.
Absolutely, because once again, Chris, you took the entire episode as a point.
That's all right. This was your show, so it's okay.
But for me, I have Geralt and the ghouls. Mm-hmm. I love this interaction. In fact, again, on starting the game up, one of our first few battles were with ghouls. Easy enough to kill, but I think what I liked here was that, Geralt does have a problem tackling them. He gets kind of, he gets overwhelmed by them. He loses his sword. He saves the funeral guy, the guy who is loading up the bodies to take them away, who he does feel is a grave robber. I love the ill winds follow a grave, robber. I liked the little sound of the fly sort of heralding these ghouls coming under from the ground, almost like Jaws, but in the soil as you follow them. And just the horror element I think is really good. I've really enjoyed where he's been tackling monsters of different types in this world, and you really get that dark kind of feeling. And I think having the campsite from the second episode, where we see Ciri in there as it's being attacked by the Nilfgaardians, it's a nice little nod back in terms of that continuity, in terms of these timey-wimey elements to the show. Yeah. I do,
because the attack only would have taken place like a week before.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, the guy who's collecting the bodies does say they're about a week old. And I do like the fact then that this fight with the ghouls, where he kind of gets overrun, he's having to punch, use his hand, but ultimately he does get bitten. Geralt gets bitten. Luckily not in the ghoulies, but on the side of the leg. And ultimately this kind of leads then to him sort of hallucinating in the back of the cart of this this guy who is trying to prevent disease or whatever it is, and collect the bodies. So I just like that. I thought it was a good opening. I think a nice bit of horror motif going in, and certainly sort of with the rest of this episode with the big battle. I thought it was that moment where it kicked off this episode in a nice way.
I loved this. I loved the ghouls. I was happy with how they portrayed them.
Definitely.
It could have looked terrible. I'm being brutally honest. It could have gone as bad as like Brain Dead Peter Jackson, where it became, or sorry, I should say as good as, because it leans so far into the stupid that it becomes great.
In
but
Brain
they actually
Dead,
kept that horror aspect, and it wasn't overly crazy CGI, but it was Cavill's presence and his like sword swings looked like they were connecting with things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is one of the things that's always difficult in these types of shows. Effectively ghouls are just zombies. Yeah, they're very similar. Yeah. So every time you have to design that for a game, every time you have to design that for a movie or a TV show, you have to make a decision as to how you're going to do it that's different from how somebody's done it in the past. And I think they've landed on a really good design choice for these ghouls in this show, so they feel like something different. And as you say, John, the horror of a hand coming out of the ground is always fun. If you're a horror fan, it's always fun having that moment and having these ghouls overwhelm your massive character who's easily able to dispatch one of them. But when there's a lot of them coming at him, I really like the idea that he's not able to overcome the overwhelming nature of a bunch of ghouls attacking at the same time.
It's nice to, it puts him in peril. It's nice to see that, some things can be just a step too far. Yeah. And, in and of themselves, a single ghoul or a couple of ghouls, he deals with them absolutely fine. I love the one where he sees the soil turning, moving towards him, and he just sort of kneels down with the sword to take out the ghoul before it even gets out of the ground. I thought that was pretty cool. But ultimately, Geralt does get a leg hickey, effectively, from one of the ghouls, and this leads to us getting some, more intimate moments about his past in this, whilst he's hallucinating in the back of the cart.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was kind of my big moment from the episode, was these flashbacks to Geralt and his past. We've heard a lot of him talking about his training in becoming a Witcher and what they did to him and him turning into a mutant, that kind of stuff. But we finally get a little bit of flashback to Geralt and his ma. Where he's a young kid being fed by his mother and being taken care of his mother. And then all of a sudden he's just dropped off on a road and she goes off on him. He's dropped off to go and get some water. When he arrives back, his mother is gone. I really like these scenes because effectively this is just Geralt playing some memories back out in his head and having conversations with a character that isn't really there. We see him getting cured and we see an interaction between Geralt and his mother, but she's not really there. This is all playing out in Geralt's head. So I really do like that interaction between the two. I also like the destiny element of it. We hear that echoing from the past, saying people that have a similar destiny will eventually meet up. And this is where Geralt finally does meet up with Ciri. It is destiny that brings him to the place to cure him, and that's where Ciri is waiting for him, or that's where Ciri is very closely in the same proximity, and she instantly knows who he is and where he is. So if he hadn't been bitten by the ghouls, if he hadn't gone that way, if he hadn't fought the ghouls, he would not have ended off in this moment meeting Ciri, which I just think is a really good way to play it in this final episode.
So do we think Visanna wasn't there?
She definitely wasn't there. No. I think the reason why is when he wakes back up, he says to the gravedigger, "Where's the woman? Where's the woman gone?" And he goes, "What woman? You just kept calling out for women over and over again while you were in the fever, So I love the interaction between the two of them, but I like the idea that she wasn't there at all, unless she magically appeared only to him and put salve on his wounds, unless
that was it. I took it as she appeared. It was her destiny to appear, save him, because he didn't know who she was at the beginning, and then he figured out. Then she wiped Jurga's memory.
Oh, maybe.
That's the way I took it.
Right.
Because it took a bit of time. I don't know. I just, it's interesting. But we get some cool information. Like, Geralt's the son of a sorceress.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I didn't know that. We didn't know that. So.
That's true, yeah.
It's interesting to see how it was all put together. Mm-hmm. That, why he's attracted to sorceresses, because he's got a mother complex. Oedipus.
Maybe. But I wonder if that's the reason why he was able to be one of the people that survived through the Witcher training, is because he has some magic in his past from his mother, Yeah. He references the fact that only 3 in 10 boys survive the trials to become a Witcher. So that's why they're so strong and powerful, is because they've weeded out anybody that could have failed those challenges. And it sounds like failing the challenge probably doesn't mean you get to go home afterwards.
No,
I don't think there's an exit strategy if you fail the Witcher tasks and challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well, the great thing about Ciri and Geralt's meetup is just her sort of question as well, right at the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who's Yennefer? And it's a great moment because, it dispenses with, "Oh, I found you," and going back into the law of surprise and all this kind of stuff. Are you safe? All this kind of thing. It's just you see the look on Geralt's face as she's like, who's Yennefer?
Yeah.
And certainly given what's just happened in the Battle of Sodden Hill, then, it's a great way just to close out, the series. It's really nicely done, I thought.
And it's referencing the fact that she's been hearing this voice from Geralt talking about her name. That's the connection that they have between the two of them, is that she keeps hearing him say the name of Yennefer. And this is the character that's oldest in the series. If we go back to that timeline again, Yennefer's been around for 50 years in this series and has had all of these amazing things happen to her, yet Ciri has absolutely no idea who this character is. So I love that meeting of two main characters, and the third one of them doesn't even know, which I think is a lovely, interesting touch. Chris, go on, bring us on to the big part of the episode, your final big moment from episode 8.
For me, it was just the Battle of Sodden Hill. This is the
definitely.
one thing that we lacked in. We talk about Game of Thrones. It's if you bring magic into warfare, that's where I was like, oh, this is cool. Now this is an army of, it was 22 sorcerers going against a battalion. And what would they do? So it's so interesting to see how they use their powers, or how they use their sorcery in a good way. Let's say the 22, so without killing themselves, and how they use it to protect while still attacking towards the end. And then the Nilfgaardians using sorcery to become evil, to using so much chaos that they die.
Yes.
Which is so interesting. So we see the first 2 fireballs fired at Sodden Hill by the Nilfgaardians are actually 2 sorcerers.
Yes. Exactly, yeah. They've used all of their power up, and I love that they just drop to the ground. I also must say I love the first bomb coming towards them, and Yennefer being able to just divert it off course and it explodes, and then you have evil now, Fringilla, going, okay, next mage, up and do your thing. And you see you see the mage's face going, I know that kills me, and I really want to do this.
and the other thing as well, the guy who was creating the clouds and the mist and the fog to hide their approach, as he walks into the gate, he is also being spent, and he falls, his cape falls to the ground, along with the box of evil black worms that are about to sort of go and do their thing. So it's almost like this dark magic from episode 7 has more of a cost to it than the magic preached by Aretusa in the Citadel of the Ghouls and the teachings. Although we'd also see Fringilla using elements of dark potion, and I love where she opens up kind of the tornado thing on the ground for the archers to fire in, and and opens up the other one in the elfin fort at Sodden Hill, so that they get a few of the mages.
So cool.
Really good. But she's not being affected in that way. But maybe it's just it depends on the type of spell and how long you do it, because, obviously the fireballs seem to be fairly powerful in what they need to do. And the guy who's walking with the soldiers, the mage who is having to create this fog, is having to do it for quite a long time. And, I like the fact that, in this moment, they've taken out 3 of their mages just purely to do their attack.
Yeah. It's huge props to the writer's room here, isn't it? Because they set up the concept all the way from the beginning of the show that every piece of magic has a cost. And, obviously there are some things that you do that don't have as much of a cost. If you're not doing something massively powerful, it won't kill you effectively. But I love the idea that when they get here in a massive battle, they still adhere to those rules that they've set up. So you can only use one powerful piece of magic as the army is attacking. So hold your stance until the very last moment, use it then, and then you can take down as many soldiers as you can. But that's it. You've then used your piece of magic, or else you will die. And they have to fall back over and over again because they've used that bit of magic. It's not like they have a pile of these weapons available. There's only 22 of them. So they need to make sure they protect the people that are in there and they use their one bit of magic and then fall back or they will die. I think that's a really cool little rule that they've placed on themselves for the fight.
I think the other great thing about this battle is that, it's quite intimate actually, because it's in forests and all this kind of stuff, and it's kind of a mage on a sort of a battalion of the Nilfgaard soldiers. But I love the establishing shot of this sodden hill area and the elven fort with the bridge. Like, it's just spectacular. Yeah. And then when they're testing the defenses, again, you have it pulled back and you see Yennefer chucking that fireball away. And there's a few moments where it just pans back, of course, right at the end as well, when Yennefer does her thing, which it's just really good because it keeps connecting you into those intimate moments in the forest where, like you having Fringilla and Tessia sort of meet up. You have Vilgefortz and Cahiers meeting up as well. So I love some of those wide shots of the whole battlefield. It just is, it's just so sort of epic looking.
So
really good.
And I think that's the exact word, epic. So in a lot of these shows, or even in the beginning of this season, we see that massive battle. Mm-hmm. That's not on the same scale as this, because it's not just hundreds of thousands of people. It's the same with the Battle of the Bastards in Game of Thrones. Mm-hmm. Where it was the epicness was the scale of the battle that we were seeing. This isn't the same scale. It's because it's just a company versus 22 and a couple of 22 sorcerers, and a couple of refugees. Yes. But what's epic is the use of battle magic, or magic in battle. And then the being able to see it on the, as you say, like the pan out views where we see like the fire being shot out in a wave across the woods in like literally a cone outwards.
I love it, and I love the touch of just her keeping the people that were important to her alive as that fire rolls over and around everybody else.
That was awesome.
I just think it's such a beautifully shot scene and a beautifully put together idea. And again, I think these writers have such a great grasp of the rules that they've given themselves to play with, the idea that they come back afterwards and Yennefer is nowhere to be found. The magic that she must have conjured to do this thing, protecting everybody else, remember, not seeking power anymore, now on the side of what she believes is right, along with all the other mages, no longer working alone, working with the people that she formerly criticized constantly throughout the series for turning her into what she became. She is now taken up the good side, the light side almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's fantastic.
And that's it. It's like, that moment where Tessia, she just says, forget the bottle, let your chaos explode, release everything that you've felt and buried. And as she's conjuring that spell, you've just got these lines of dialogue from throughout the series, informing her to sort of release the chaos that's inside of her with this fireball. And again, another one of those great panning shots where it's kind of from Cahir's point of view, where effectively he's seeing his army decimated, just as, is it King Falstaff from episode 3 or 4, where he comes over the ridge, very Lord of the Rings, with the Rohirrim coming, in the Return of the King, just in time as such. So it'd be interesting to see.
They could have probably used them about an hour beforehand.
Well, they could have, absolutely. But I just thought it was really, really good.
Really epic, definitely.
Is Vilgefortz now evil?
So that's very quickly where I wanted to kind of discuss, which is that we get this introduction of these evil worms, earworms, that take over and make you battle for essentially the Nilfgaardian forces.
I actually have it written in my notes that this is a worse earworm than toss a coin.
Well done. I'm gonna give you that one. I don't like it, but I'm gonna give you that one. It's so interesting to see this, because this could explain why Fringilla is the way she is. So these magical earworms that we are literally introduced to in the beginning of in mid this episode, there's no other explanation other than you do what they tell you. Yeah. So potentially this could be this is a bit of a gopher for season 2.
Do you think so? 'Cause I don't know. Let's talk this bit out as we go. So the earworms that we're talking about, the little black worms that are sent into the castle of Sodden Hill, they take over 3 people. They take over Sabrina, who we saw from episode 1 was another mage working with Yennefer. She walks up and tries to kill Yennefer, but then falls off the side of the building with Yennefer, and the worm falls out of her ear, and she apologizes effectively. The 2 kids then drop bombs, and they effectively are turned into suicide bombers, but they're very blank the whole time. They have no expression on their face the whole time. They just carry out the mission. I would be surprised if they said the earworms were what were controlling Fringilla and what's controlling Vilgeforce as well. I feel like there's been a bigger change here. I think Fringilla has gone to their side because they allow her to do what she wants to, and she is now ultimately very powerful, something that Yennefer was craving her this entire season. And I think what may have happened to Vilgeforce, I don't know at all because we don't get much on screen. What may have happened is he has the ability to regenerate. So I think he may have regenerated bad, effectively. He constantly regenerates those swords over and over again. We think he's dead. And then we see him at the end of the episode staring effectively off into camera, looking quite evil after killing one of the members of the army who asked to be saved. So,
or was that how he saved them, putting, maybe
putting him out of his misery?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe. Too far gone. Yeah. I loved Vilgeforce's perpetual sword. Awesome. Although I presume again it was just the cost of that magic of regenerating the sword.
Well, in a video game when you've got 8 attempts.
Well, that's true.
And it goes down to 7 and 6. It's like, damn it! I've used all 8 attempts. Like, there's no longer a sword.
Absolutely, you've got to go and find more. Oh no.
Exactly.
So maybe Vilgeforce will just walk those forests trying to find new materials so he can craft a new sword, and that will be his story in season 2.
Exactly.
But gentlemen, that does bring us to the end of season 1 of The Witcher.
Absolutely. Can I just also say one last thing? Or ask the question actually. What was your favourite magic attack from the mages? I loved the one from Triss, who put her hands on the ground and you have these mushrooms. It actually reminded me a bit of Prometheus, Alien Prometheus, where they step on them just doing the puff of clouds. And I was like, you should have just put mushrooms all the way through this forest. What are you doing?
I thought that was really nice. So she can only put the mushrooms out far at a certain
Well, that's true. I know that.
There's definitely some really, really good ones. Chris, what's one that stood out to you in the episode?
The homing arrows. Sorry, the arrows. It's not even magic. It was just that they're grenades that they turned into. So it was the jars.
Yeah, the blue jars. Sulfur,
that then the mages were firing. They were firing. So the boys were catapulting or slingshotting these things over. And then the mages were basically shooting arrows. And I was like, what's going? So there must be like homing arrows or something.
It was very cool.
It was just, it looked interesting because you saw at a distance then when they panned back to Fringilla and all them, you could still see those little grenades going off and they looked just spectacular.
It's only when the 2 boys kind of took out their resources of all the bombs when they did their suicide bomber kind of moment that they lost all the resources to do that. But yeah, that's a really cool one as well. I really liked the magic that was in the episode. I think I probably agree with you, John. I liked the mushrooms growing and then everybody puking on the floor.
Yeah, no, that was pretty cool. That was I think the Fringilla and Tasia moment where they meet and she... Oh, yeah. I thought Tasia actually was gone. I thought she was dead, but she seemed to have recovered. And at least was still alive at the end of the season, which I think is really good because I like her and Yennefer's relationship. I think the ups and the downs of it all, I think, have been really, really good.
Absolutely. Literally closing out the episode, we find that Cahir and Fringilla are both alive on the other side. Villager Force, we don't know where he stands on whether he's good or bad now. And we have Tissaia still alive. Triss still alive? I think she got stabbed at the gate with a stick that was on fire, and she was holding that injury at the end of the episode. Triss, I believe, is quite a big character in the books and maybe even the games as well. But in this season, the only time we've really seen her was she's the mage that worked with Geralt, trying to serve King Foltest, who had the daughter who was the Stria. Yes, there we go. I got that out.
Yeah, I tell you, like, you're using all the words today.
I certainly am. But she's still alive. So there are some members of that 22 mages that are still alive at the end of this fight. So Yennefer did save a few people, at least. Unfortunately, some of the other mages get some really bad, terrible things happening to them.
Yeah, I think especially the mage that loses her arms, and it seems to be singled out by the Nilfgaardians for excessively violent treatment as well, because she's pinned to a tree just outside of the gates of the Elven fort. So
I think that's it. She was kind of the last line of defense before they got in to the castle. So that's why she gets the real wrath from all of them, because she's still snapping necks as she's going. Really brutal end to that mage. But that's it for all of the episodes of The Witcher. Wow, only 8 episodes in the season, and we've covered them all over the course of the last 2 podcasts. We have one more thing to do, really. What did you think of the last 4 episodes of The Witcher? Will we go with Chris first?
Yeah, I'm happy. Looking back at it now, don't kill me, boys. I could have done with a few more episodes. Honestly, I'm like, I think literally 2 more episodes.
Chris,
because it took so long to. Yeah, I know. This is usually we compare. Usually, I can play it and go. They could have shortened it down a bit, like, you know.
I'm glad you changed the "we" to "I" there, Chris. Yes. For anybody who's only joining us for The Witcher or just joining us in 2020, Chris is the one that is most likely to tell us that they could cut a couple of episodes from a season of a show.
Yes, exactly.
Adding episodes is my
favorite. This is filler. I could have done with 1 more episode or maybe 2 more episodes where, like, it's post going forward, because I feel this and it's exactly what it was meant to. Season 1 was the coming together of Destiny, putting all the pieces in place, but it feels like they just got going. They just got to the point at the end now where I'm like, oh my God, we got here and this is what's going to happen. And then it's like, we'll see you in 2021.
Yeah, cue season 2.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Exactly, I know.
You'll be salivating for the next sort of year and a bit, Chris. You'll be kind of like drooling in anticipation.
Well, exactly. So literally the end credit title now says, don't worry, Witcher is coming back for season 2. Netflix said that to me on the TV,
oh, right, okay.
And I'm like, well done. Okay, I want more.
Absolutely.
And then it tried to get me to watch Lost in Space season 2, and I'm like, no, I'm okay, thank you. I'll go back to that literally when I really need to. But okay,
that's a really interesting choice from The Witcher to Lost in Space. That's
it was like going from an adult rated R, well, not rated R, but it was at least rated 16s kind of TV show with nudity, swearing, violence, to a family show of about the Robinsons.
And the vastness of outer space as well. You know, it's a very, very different show. Overall, yeah, I'm really happy with what we got in The Witcher. I again didn't know the source material beforehand. What I laughed at when we opened up The Witcher, John's already mentioned a lot of the game, but I did want to say one thing. When we opened up Witcher 3, the starting of it is Geralt training Ciri as a Witcher, and he's pining for Yennefer. So within the first 10 seconds of this game that we're playing, the 3 main characters are mentioned instantly, and we're going, oh, okay. Well, I guess it's not that much of a mystery what happens in the TV show. So probably shouldn't have played the game before watching the last couple of episodes of the show. But you knew that was going to happen. You knew Geralt was eventually going to get to Ciri. So that's not a major spoiler, is it? Overall, no. I really like the world that they created in the show. I think watching it the way we did was the best way to watch it. I'm glad we didn't record a podcast after each episode of the show, as I said, after the first
definitely.
4.
Yeah.
I think that works even better in the second half, because episode 6, the one where they go after the dragon, really did feel like mission of the week type thing. And it does feel like what you traditionally call filler, Chris, you know. I liked it because it was a proof of concept for me. If this show had gone 22 episodes, you would certainly get loads more of those episodes where he goes out into the world to find mysterious creatures and maybe work with them, or maybe capture them, or maybe kill them, kind of thing. That would be the way the show would go if they wanted to expand it to 22 episodes.
It would be the monster slay of the week. It would be
exactly.
like, oh, Geralt slaying that monster.
Like,
oh, you slay.
like 15 seasons of Supernatural hosted by RuPaul. Is that basically it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Certainly when Yennefer gave him his tight leather sort of chaps.
Oh,
I
she
was kinda
sized him up well.
She certainly did. And Henry Cavill once again in a bath with his top off.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if the Doppler turned up, he came up out of the water. Hi, Geralt.
So we're now into John's fantasy thing here.
Oh well, okay. I must pen this down somewhere. But in terms of my rating, I really, really enjoyed this. I came in not knowing anything about the computer game, not knowing anything about the books, and I've really enjoyed getting into this world. Yes, it was a little confusing for the first 4 episodes until the timelines got sorted out. But then I'm like going, that's just really nicely done. I'm really glad that they took this interesting approach to it. I think Henry Cavill has been great with as Geralt of Rivia, and Yennefer, a fascinating character, and sort of the trappings or the pursuit of power. Ciri, I feel probably this just wasn't her season, but I certainly, the dark, screamy Ciri at the end of episode 7. And that final, who is Yennefer? What a great ending.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everyone around it, from Fringilla to Tessia, Stregobor, have all been kind of fascinating, have brought something to the table, which I've really enjoyed. Yeah, the lioness and her husband, and their interaction, have been really, really good. And I, to be honest, who says I'm not a commercial person? Because on the back of this, we've gotten the game, probably get the books, I'll probably get the t-shirt. So, here we go. Definitely in with The Witcher.
Game of Thrones round 2. Yeah.
Really enjoying it. And that's why I would give it 4 evil gin and tonics out of 5.
Gin spelled to DJ.
Yes, exactly.
Very good, John. Very good. One thing I did notice in the series, which I thought was quite interesting, show called The Witcher, and we had 3 massive battles in the show. We had the battle in the first episode, one army going up against another army. We had the battle in Sintra, where the entire time the Witcher is behind bars, effectively, right until the end. And then we have this massive magic battle up on Sodden Hill in the final episode.
Great.
Isn't it fascinating that throughout the show, the Witcher is not actually part of any of those 3 massive battles for control of this world? You would just assume that he would have been used by one side or the other to protect themselves or to fight with them. But in a show called The Witcher, he doesn't play a part in any of those 3 battles. I think that's a brilliant choice, isn't it?
I think so. I also think it kind of connects in with the husband and wife who have saved Ciri. This idea that, war is going on in this world, but it doesn't affect everyone.
Yeah.
It's being played out in the background, and okay, it affects maybe Geralt a little bit more in terms of who he knows, like Yennefer and so on. But it is that interesting point of view from that couple who have saved Ciri, where they said, "Oh yeah, it's happening over there, but they're not interested in us. They're not coming this way. They're going north."
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of a good thing.
And I exactly. So I like the idea that this is not, while he is involved in these big stories, he's not the one. It's not like Geralt versus the Nilfgaardian army.
Exactly.
And I because you could easily do that. They could have made him literally he was the savior of Sintra, because he took down because no, he's still a man. He's just a really swole, mutated man. He can take on ghouls. He can take on griffins and things like that. Mm-hmm. But he needs to be powered up. But it's still gonna take him down because he killed however many ghouls and neckers, or ghouls in this case, but they still bit him. So yeah,
exactly. So, but I just kind of like that perspective, and I love, you know, the characters that are in this show and the perspective they're taking on the normal fantasy genre. I think has been a really refreshing take on it. I kind of said it last episode. I've read so many fantasy books over the years, fantasy series mostly, and it's so fascinating to think we haven't ever had a lot of it ever on screen before. It's very rare that you get a fantasy show that goes on for a long time that has magic and has battles with demons and that kind of stuff. It's usually only in games and books that they work. They generally don't work on TV and movies. Game of Thrones was very much an exception to that rule, and mostly because it focused on the battle between people for the Iron Throne as opposed to the magic and as opposed to the other stuff that was going on within that time. So finally seeing something like this brought to life on screen, I think it's really cool. Regardless of whether you've read these particular books or not, it does have a really good element of fantasy with it that brought to life on the show. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, good stuff. Let's, with that, get on to our feedback that we've received from Bob Phillips for the remaining 4 episodes.
Absolutely.
For episode 5, he does announce that this has been watched with a much less grumpy eye, with a view to Yennefer as bored, pointless, powerful, but neutered by her rejection of the politics of her world. I loved the development of her village as a massive sex party. Yes, the orgy of episode 5. The violent governor as a sub with a tasteful plate of apples was a delight, says Bob. The rejection of witches offered to save her, and anger that he did so anyway. I think this will be important later in the episodes, plus more bathing and frolicking. The doppelganger, Bob continues, using we was also delicious. This taking the fluid trope and allowing to develop with a more modern understanding of language is great. Still not convinced the Ciri story at the Elven Forest is going anywhere, but at least they are trying to make it a little more interesting with some spots of peril and the choices that need to be made. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think the doppelganger's we was a nice little touch there. This idea that he is somehow a collective in himself, with all this absorbing of good looks, chiseled buttocks, and of course all the information of Mousesack.
But I like even the concept that everybody that he's absorbed in the past, he's got all of their memories and all of their consciousness and all together. So he calls himself we. I love that idea that we are not just one, we are many, kind of thing. A really cool idea. Makes it even scarier.
Yes. Bob went on for his feedback on episode 6 to say, Dragon Quest! This episode feels almost completely unrelated to whatever the main theme of the series is, but absolutely watchable and full of all the elements we've enjoyed. The monster killer who saves dragons and feeds angry panther head bipeds. The shockingly beautiful sorceress who uses all of her strength and works with and against the expectations of the world. The dwarves being successful by sharing knowledge unique to their differences, and the bard again being sidelined and useless. Where the story did advance, I felt like it was teasing again the ideas of predestination and destiny. I like that we are seeing more of the winged helmet baddie and still don't understand the importance of Ciri. Yeah, I think we literally just talked about it, that this could have been a monster of the week bit, but it actually just did enough to move the story slightly enough ahead. But it was used to deepen the Geralt and Yennefer story.
Absolutely. And changed, I suppose, the perspective of Yennefer as being someone that will do absolutely anything to have a child, regardless of the consequences to anybody else. We finally see a moment of her realizing, actually, maybe we can't say regardless of everybody else. Maybe there are some people that I need to put above myself. And that's the revelation we get at the end, is that she has now turned back into someone that will put others above herself, that she's not the only thing that matters in the world, I suppose. At episode 7, Dr. Bob says, well, this was heavy on politics, wasn't it? Making it abundantly clear to us that the invading armies see themselves as in the right, but with their own version of what is acceptable, and the use of slavery and slaughter to enforce it. Good to see archaeologists being highlighted as amoral opportunists who are more than willing to use indentured labour and disregard for the country's own treasures as long as it produces results. What is Ciri, though? Is she a goddess, an elven mage, a devil, or incarnation of chaos, or just a slightly annoying princess?
All of the above.
There you go.
I love the archaeologist reference. Yes. Istrid being, yes, a little dubious here. The one thing I loved about that whole sort of archaeological site was when you look at the extras on it, and it's like they're just kind of tapping the earth and doing random stuff. It's like, is there any meaningful mining or archaeology going on here? It's just like some guy sort of shoveling the side of a slope for absolutely no reason.
You get this brush and rub away the dust up there for half an hour.
It's really funny. I just thought that was really funny.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bob.
And Bob on episode 8 goes, so what's going to happen next? I think, saw the near total destruction of all the mages and the unleashing of a firestorm to rival a flock of dragons. The resurrection of Rectorus. I was pretty certain she had been asphyxiated.
Yes.
And a mystical white flame that I still don't understand. Me neither, Bob. Me neither. I'm still wondering what this white flame refers to. But drawing together the forces of the exceptionally white empire, the battered magicians, and an errant father figure and his previously rejected gift daughter finally meeting in the woods, and I still don't get what Ciri is. Very glad to have announced season 2, as this felt like the first half of something with a lot of story still to go. My other question, which I think I should be able to work out but can't, is why Magical Sword Boy seems to have turned into evil Mr. Mace.
It's because he used the mace to crush the guy's head. Very good, Bob. Yes, we don't know whether he's evil or whether he's just putting that kid out of his misery. But yeah, I like your description of Vilgeforce as Magic Sword Boy.
I will jump in very quickly. The white flame refers to, sorry, I should have said this earlier, and this is me with knowledge. The white flame refers to Emperor Emfir, who is the Emperor of Nilfgaard.
Right. This is the rightful heir of Nilfgaard that's taken his throne?
Yes. He is the king, the emperor, but Nilfgaardians, it's almost like a cult. So they see him as the one true heir. He is the white flame. He is it's cult like they'll kill themselves for him.
Okay, yeah. Well, that makes sense for sure. I thought it was to do with almost like a deity or some kind of magical reference, rather than...
Well, they see him as a deity. Like, okay. It's that cult, yeah. Like, he is the leader of the world.
Okay.
The rightful heir of the world.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I think, as well, I thought it may have related to something like Ciri, a bit like what Bob's saying, that, what is Ciri? Just because it's only really the sort of banshee side of it that we've really seen, and then that kind of that moment where she flings everyone onto sort of trees and kills them when she's protecting herself. That's kind of the only real notion. It's a shame she's lost Dara as well, because I thought he helped bring her story out a little bit more as well. Yeah. But now that she's met up with Geralt, I kind of thought, because of her very white blonde hair, that this was something or to reference the white flame in some respect.
Perhaps, yeah. Just kind of connects in with the final piece of feedback that Bob has, and something that we didn't talk about throughout the series actually, but became our cover for each of our episodes for this series. The titles for each episode has its own kind of logo, effectively, for a group or for the story itself. And in the final episode, as Bob mentions, titles. So they change each time with a different amulet. But in episode 8, the wolf and a flame and a strange house martin merge together to make the white wolf symbol. Just to kind of have a quick chat about that, I suppose. So the symbol of Geralt, or of The Witcher as a show itself, is a wolf with a surrounding flame, effectively, and a bird. Chris, any insight as to what this could be?
It refers to people coming together. It's probably going to be explained more in season 2, but if we think that Geralt is the White Wolf,
yes,
and his destiny is entwined with a certain person's, I will say that in the game, that the symbol for Ciri is a swallow.
Very good. Yep.
Okay.
So that is what that house martin is. It's actually a swallow. So it's that this is that coming together of these two, the wolf and the swallow.
Interesting. And there's a third symbol in the symbol as well. Looks like a sun, or looks like the white flame, maybe. So yeah.
And that's Yennefer.
That would be what I think.
Yes.
Is that the fire of Yennefer?
Yes.
Or it does look like the Nilfgaardian symbol, weirdly, on an angle when you look at it. The cross with then the other diagonal points as well.
Interesting.
But it also looks like it could be a burst of flame, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay.
Interesting. Excellent. And as always, thanks so much, Bob, for your feedback for the episode.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And thanks so much to all of our fellow Witchers who've been watching the episodes through the last week, really, for 8 episodes. Not everybody was able to catch up in this short period of time. We gave everybody to catch up with the episodes. But thanks so much for listening along with us. As we've mentioned before, we're going to be coming back with Star Trek Picard beginning next week, the 23rd of January in the US, 24th of January in the UK and around the world on Amazon Prime. Check it out. Send us your feedback and send us your thoughts about those episodes. You can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com or join us on our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries if you want to share any of your thoughts. You can also pop over to our website at tvpodcastindustries.com. Leave any of your thoughts there, up to 90 seconds of your thoughts, record them there, send them on to us, or if you want to record it on any voice recorder and email us at the email address. We'd love to hear from everyone about Star Trek Picard, as we'll be covering every episode of that show each week from now on.
I think our feedback section for Star Trek Picard should be called Engage.
Maybe. I was just going to rely on the old traditional communicating section.
Yeah, maybe.
As our producer, you have to get the cheesy sounds from the original, the 60s one, not even Next Generation, just the one where he like opens up the communicator.
I know you haven't actually listened to our latest podcast, Chris, but if you listen to the opening second of it, you may be quite surprised and quite happy with what I've done.
It's almost like we have the same brain.
Almost, yes. Almost. Thanks so much for joining us once again, fellow Witchers and my fellow podcasters. Really good to have a chat about 8 episodes of this show. I was going in completely not expecting to enjoy it as much as I have. It's been great fun. I'm really looking forward to season 2 as well.
Yeah, me too.
Excellent. I'm always happy when my machinations and my ideas come well together.
We might let you choose something else in the future, Chris.
Maybe. Thank you so much, fellow podcasters, fellow listeners, and we'll be back later this week with Picard. It's going to be good.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, fellow Witchers, for joining us. It's a pleasure, as always. And remember, keep watching, keep listening, and engage.
Keep witching. I like it.
Indeed.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. I think Henry Cavill has been great with being the Witcher, being Geralt of Riviera.
Riviera?
Of the
Riviera.
Of the Riviera. With his top off, walking down the beach.